to the Mission Dorothy podcast with your hostess, Tamekis Williams. Hello, and thank you guys so much for joining us today at the Mission Dorothy podcast. I hope that everything has been going well in your world. Today, I want to talk with you guys about self-awareness. Have you ever thought about why do you move the way you move? Why do you make the choices that you make? Why do you feel the way that you feel? Self-awareness is very important on your journey when it comes to living authentically, because in order to be authentic, you have to be well aware of who you are. Oftentimes, we're not well aware of who we are because oftentimes we really don't assess until either someone bring it to our attention or something major happens in life, such as a divorce or a major breakup that forces us to sit down and really think about, who we are, or think about ourselves and our behaviors and how we navigate life and relationships and such. There's a lot of talk about emotional intelligence nowadays, and it's very important if you're working to increase your emotional intelligence. You have to really be understanding of who you are and being self-aware. Today, I want to give you guys a couple of concepts that I would like for you to really think about as you go about your own journey of self-awareness. Having self-awareness means that you have knowledge of yourself. You understand your habits, your likes, your dislikes, the way you view the world, and your needs. You know what you want in life and have an understanding of your emotional responses. It's funny because as Socrates states, know thyself, right? That's one of his famous quotes is know thyself. And I want you guys to really take a really good look at how you've been showing up in this world. And I want you to really ask yourself, how well do I know myself? So today I want to give you 5 elements of self-awareness. And these elements are really great domains in your life that you really do need to think about when it comes to self-awareness. Those 5 elements or domains are your self-concept, your thoughts, your feelings, your body, and your emotions. Believe it or not, they pretty much all work together, right? And so it's very important to be able to have really good insight into those domains because they will bring you closer to knowing who you are, right? To having that self-awareness and being aware of self, right? So let's talk about self-concept. So your self-concept is your perception of you. Your perception come from your personal experiences, what you expect from yourself in the future, and what you believe your abilities are. If your self-concept is healthy, you are more likely to take on challenges, achieve goals you've set for yourself, and live more positively overall. Self-concept is really key because a lot of times we can really have the wrong perception of ourselves. Your friends, your family, the people you've been in relationships with, they will tell you about their perception of you. And oftentimes we don't want to hear it because it may not be as good, but sometimes it is good, right? And it's key for you to really look yourself in the mirror and be honest with yourself when it comes to your perception of you. Like the question is my perception of me correct? Right? Because I can have behaviors about myself that I can't see, but other people can see those behaviors in me. And we all have to be open with ourselves and honest with ourselves about how we choose to show up, right? And how we look at ourselves. A lot of times we don't recognize that we may be okay with our perception and how we are, but it may not come off as okay to others, right? Now, the goal here is definitely being open and being honest with yourself. And if you know that you have some areas within your self-concept that you need to correct, that you need to change, that you've been told over and over and over again that you need to work on, like, not having a filter, being controlling, just having a potty mouth, quick to get angry or quick to snap on people. Like, you want to really be real with yourself about how you show up, right? Because your perception could be wrong. It can be wrong. And if it is wrong, then it's almost like you're living in two worlds. You're living in a world that you see, and then you're living in a world that us other people experience, and the two worlds don't match at all, right? And so self-concept is extremely important on your journey to authenticity, right? Because as I stated earlier, when your self-concept of yourself is healthy, that means that you have done some work in order to work on yourself. You know what your flaws are. So the same way you may take on challenges, you may achieve your goals, you may live more positively. You also are able to be honest with yourself and highlight the areas that you know you need to work on, right? You're not looking with rose-colored glasses at yourself. You're looking clear. You're looking through clear lenses that are showing your pros, they're showing your cons, they're showing your weaknesses, and they're showing your strengths, and you're able to accept them all, right? And so with self-concept, we want to make sure that we're not fooling ourselves about who we feel we are. Okay? Like, let's keep it real, and let's really take a good look in the mirror. Because at the end of the day, we all have some hang-ups and some things that we know deep down that we really need to work on. But may be afraid, may not be ready to face the truth. But at the end of the day, if you want to live authentically, you want to take off the mask, you want to feel comfortable in your skin, irregardless of what room you're standing in, what space you're in, then that means that you have to really be honest with yourself. If you get angry too quick, or you're not being realistic about, some of your behaviors, if you're not taking responsibility for your actions or your lack of follow through, or if you don't have, going back to the 6 pillars, that personal integrity, or, if you're not really self-accepting, then you really got to be honest with yourself and be able to do the work. A great book to use with getting to know yourself is the 52 List Project. And she has a lot of different volumes of the book. She has 52 List Project. She has 52 Lists for happiness, for calm, for bravery, for couples. So I would definitely suggest that you guys look into the 52 List Project. That was the first book. And in that book, it helps you to explore you. Right? It asks you questions. The 52 is for 52 weeks in a year. And the goal is to focus on one list, which the list is based off of a question that she will ask you in the book. And then you have the whole week to kind of ponder on that question and, create that list. And at the end, she gives you a action or a call to action to take in order to really focus on that concept for the week. And so in the book, she's asking you a lot of questions that will help you get to know yourself, like what sets you on fire, right? What sets you on fire? What are some of the proudest accomplishments you've ever made? What are, maybe a list of things that you would like to change in your life? And so I would definitely say that that would be a really good book, to look into to get started with. So explore your self-concept, and if you don't believe it's healthy, make an effort to create some change, right? And I know that this is going to be easier for some and harder for others, but trust, if the more truthful you are with yourself, the more comfortable you will be in the long run when it comes to being yourself. Meaning that if you're truthful with yourself, you will be willing to put the work in so that you can be actually the person that you perceive that you are, right? So make sure that your reality and your perceptions both match, okay? All right, so that is the first concept or domain, which is self-concept, checking your perspective about, your perception about yourself. All right. All right, so let's go on to number 2. So number 2 is thoughts. How powerful are our thoughts? When we think about behavioral change and, cognitive behavioral therapy, if you can control the thoughts, then you can control your mood and your behaviors, right? And so thoughts are really important because they have so much power behind them. So basically, our thoughts are tied to our emotions. So when we try to become more aware of our emotions, we must first understand our thoughts and thought processes, right? And so part of this is, catching those negative thinking styles, right? There are a good 10 negative thinking styles, and you guys can go and Google negative thinking styles. But negative thinking styles are like jumping to conclusions and emotional reasoning, where you're taking this one little feeling and assigning it to everything. You have fortune telling, where you are, trying to predict what's going to happen, which end up being assuming, right? And we know what happens with assuming, right? It makes an ass out of you and me. And so our thoughts are really key. So I would definitely should suggest that you guys take a look at negative thinking styles, because your thinking style can create the type of thoughts that you have. And if your thinking style is negative, then your thoughts are always negative, right? So it's important that we must understand our thoughts and thought process. So throughout the day, one of the things that I do want you to do is take note of what you say about yourself, because a lot of times we talk more to ourselves than we do anybody else. And sad to say that most of the time when we talk to ourselves, we're saying something negative. Right? That's why positive affirmations are so important, because it helps us to deposit positivity into ourselves instead of, dang, I'm so stupid. How in the world did I do that? Right? Or when we're getting dressed, and we're downing ourselves. Oh, I'm so fat, or oh, my stomach's so big, or, I'm broke, or, just that negative. I can't even believe, oh, I'm so silly. Right? Just this negativity. And we do it with some of the smallest, in some of the smallest situations, or, just in insignificant moments. And we don't even realize what we're saying to ourselves, because what we do need to realize is that what comes out of our mouth comes right back into our ears. Right? So make sure that throughout the day you take stock of what you are saying to yourself, right? I also want you to think about what you're saying to yourself, how you talk about yourself, which is what I just stated about calling yourself fat or, any kind of negative statements that you may make about yourself, and what you say about situations you encounter. So just think about it like thoughts. So if your thoughts are negative, when you think about what you say to yourself, more than likely you will be saying some negative things. If you think about how you talk to yourself, more than likely you will be talking to yourself very negatively, right? And if you think about what you say about situations you encounter, more than likely that's going to be negative too. So it's so important for us to be mindful of our thoughts, right? Journaling is a really great way to be mindful of that, which at the end, I will give you guys a couple of tips you can use in order to start that self-awareness process, which I've already named a couple of resources so far. So, when you do this self-assessment, if you notice your thoughts are more negative, then think about gratitude, right? Think about practicing gratitude, mindfulness, in order to discover why your thoughts are the way they are, right? Did you make a lot of mistakes in life and you have not forgiven yourself for that? Are you still holding yourself accountable for some of the negative choices that you may have made, sometimes being in negative relationships, if you've made some, decisions in the past and you're still struggling with the fact that you can't believe you did those things. Like, you have to really be mindful of, your thoughts, but utilizing and working it to, correct that. So if your thoughts are mostly negative, once you do this assessment, then utilize gratitude. Each day, try to find 3 things that you're thankful for at the end of the day, right before you go to bed, or when you say your prayers. You could just list those 3 things that you are thankful for. You can also practice mindfulness, right, to discover why your thoughts may be that way as well. And mindfulness is all about just tuning in and just focusing on this one thing, right? Moving away the distractions and being 150% in tune with what it is that you're focused on, right? So those 2 methods of mindfulness and gratitude are great ways to start changing that negative dialogue that you may have within inside, as we call her Negative Betty, right? So then once, after reflecting, try to have more positive thoughts or thoughts. Try to have more positive thoughts, right? So even though things may not go your way, once again, throw that gratitude in there and try to find a silver lining. Right? Try to find a silver lining. It's one there, because what we got to realize is that the same way the negative thoughts come in, the positive thoughts come in too. It's just that the negative thoughts are highlighted, right? They got these flashing lights on them that's like, look at me, look at me. And the positive thoughts are over there like, sis, I've been here this whole time. Like, I've been sitting right here this whole time. Right? But we will focus on the negative depending on our relationship with ourselves, depending on the type of thoughts that we have about ourselves, right? So those negative thoughts tend to show up way more and are more aggressive than the positive thoughts, right? So definitely, just be mindful of that, because, it's amazing, when I ask clients to list their strengths and their weaknesses, the weakness list is oftentimes longer than the strength, right? Like, they can peel off the weaknesses really quick, but struggle with the strengths. And it really should be the other way around. You should be able to, peel off your strengths without hesitation. Right? But that's when you're in tune with yourself. That's when you have good self-awareness and you have a good concept of yourself, right? Then you can throw out those positive thoughts and strengths about yourself versus focusing so much on the weakness, right? And so I know, this exercise is not going to be a good, how do I say, comfortable exercise, because it forces you to really take a close look at yourself. And if you're going to live the rest of your life being your 100% authentic self without a mask, without second, like always second guessing yourself, we're all going to second guess ourselves sometimes. So I'm not going to sit here and say never second guess yourself. We all do that. But you don't want it to be, you want to keep that at like a 10%. Right? You don't want that to be like at a 50, 75% where you're constantly second guessing yourself. Right? So you may have to force it. You might not, you may not believe some of the things that you may come up with during these exercises, but, over time, it won't hurt so bad. Right? Because you will recognize, and using that gratitude, you will focus on the fact that you're being 100% real with yourself so that you can be the best version of yourself. Right? So make sure that you notice these thoughts, because thoughts is the driving force. It's the driving force for when it comes to depression, when it comes to anxiety, it's so easy to get lost in your thoughts. And the sad part about it is that we tend to lose ourselves in the negative thoughts, right? We will replay those jokers over and over and over again. Like the scenario is going to change. No, it's going to stay the same, right? So our thoughts hold a lot of power. And that's why it's so important to be in tune with your thoughts and how you think about yourself and your self-concept and how you speak of yourself, right? Also, with our thoughts, we have to, just be very mindful of learning how to slow things down a little bit so that we can be clear about our thought process, right? Some people immediately will just jump to conclusions, going back to those negative thinking styles. Some people will give situations time and attention and give themselves time to process it. Think about it, ladies. When you're in a relationship, do guys not they may not respond right then. Let's just say you and your guy had an argument or, just a disagreement or something. And in the moment he was cool, but then 2 days later, it's like you haven't heard from him in 2 days. Right? And that's because he need time to process his thoughts. Right? We don't all think the same. And so I just find that a lot of guys need time to process their thoughts and, for different reasons. So let me not sit here and try to come up with why they do it, but they know why they do it. But at the end of the day, they do it for different reasons, right? And so it's important, that can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing, because if you don't share with your mate that, okay, babe, you know what, I need some time to process, right? But instead you just go silent and then you ghost, and your girl ain't heard from you in 2 days, 3 days, a week. It's like, okay, what we doing, right? Like, what's happening right now? So it's important, just to understand that giving yourself enough time to process something is very important, because a lot of times when we just jump the gun, we end up processing it incorrectly. Right? We end up having this negative view that may not be the truth, right? It may not be real reality. It may be twisted reality where you could be mixing up old feelings or even things similar from an old relationship and that type of thing. And, and it's just not reality. So it's very important to just give yourself some time to to process the thoughts. And if you need time, please say that, you know what, babe, I need a little time to process this. Right now, I'm feeling a certain kind of way. I'm feeling defensive, and that's stopping me from really processing this in the correct way. I don't want to process this in anger. I don't want to process this in irrational thinking. So if you can just give me maybe 2 days or a day or a couple of hours to process it, I promise you I'll come back and we can discuss it. Right? That's the right way. To go about it. So be mindful. Think about your thoughts. Spend a week, right? Just spend a week. Anytime you recognize that you're thinking negative, if you're having negative thoughts, log it, write it down. There are several apps that you can, you could use your note app. It's several apps that you can use, mood log, in order to journal or, just write your thoughts down. But I just want you to take some time out to pay attention to your thoughts, right? And another good way to pay attention to your thoughts is in meditation. Think about it. When you're meditating, what happens? A lot of different thoughts start to pop up, right? And so in that meditative process, take the time out to see, are these thoughts positive? Are they empty thoughts like, what's that kink in my side? Right? Or, or are they negative thoughts like, I can't do this. Right? So think about it when you're meditating, because oftentimes when we're meditating, thoughts it's amazing how many thoughts you can hear or see during meditation. Meditation is definitely not about ridding your mind of thoughts, but it's just about shifting your focus, right? So that'll be a really great way to start thinking about how you to monitor your thoughts, basically. Okay. All right. So let's go on to the next one. And that is feelings. Oh, those feelings. So when we think about feelings, we think about our heart, right? We think about our heart and how different people and situations make us feel, right? And so we also have to think about how our feelings, how the things we say about ourselves make us feel, right? What about when other people say things about us and how that makes us feel, right? No matter what your feelings are, you must identify which are associated with your thoughts and your experiences. Right? This is you thinking about, so are my feelings associated with my thoughts, or are my feelings associated with my experiences? Right? So when you're feeling a certain way, let's just say if you're angry, ask yourself, am I angry because of what I'm thinking? Or am I angry because of what just happened? See, a lot of times we end up being angry about what we're thinking, right? Because when you're having an argument with someone, disagreeing with someone, here come all of these negative thoughts, right? And so we can conjure up a whole story in our head that is actually false just based off of how we feel. Just based off of the negative thoughts that lead to the negative feelings, right? If you control the thoughts, you can control how you're going to feel, right? So am I angry because of what I'm saying inside of my head? Right? This fool crazy. He got the wrong one. He must think I'm some kind of fool or something. Right? Or is it the actual experience? Right? The fact that you're in an argument with your mate. Right? So it's very important to distinguish that, because oftentimes we get caught up in our thoughts and we get angry, mad, hurt, pissed off, and all of that because of what we're thinking versus the actual experience, right? Now, granted, the experience can be the activating event. It can be the trigger that will trigger the thoughts, right? But then if you control them thoughts, you control what? Your feelings, right? So granted, the experience of getting in an argument can definitely hurt, but your thoughts is what will be the meter for, are you going to stay here at this 5, which is like mad, or are you going to allow your thoughts to take you to a actual 10, which is explosive, right? So once you can identify those feelings, whether it's thoughts or the experience, keep track of them and see if there are any patterns, right? Notice yourself starting, if you're starting negative patterns, or if you have positive patterns. Most likely we do have some negative patterns. Let's just say for a person who does not like to be told what to do. As soon as somebody say anything about trying, if it feel like somebody's trying to tell them what to do, they snapping. Right? So you got to be honest with yourself. Are you going down this negative hill and with this negative pattern? Or are you open to hearing what someone is trying to say, and then you can make your decision versus what? Jumping to conclusions, which is a what? Negative thinking style. So make sure that you take some steps to avoid continuing those negative patterns. Okay? All right. Feelings are key, y'all. I'm telling you, please hone in on that, because they are the driving force for our thoughts, as well as our response to our thoughts, which is our behaviors. Okay? So please keep them feelings in check, because when we lose ourselves in our feelings, that can, it can go wrong in so many ways. Right? This temporary feeling was supposed to be temporary, but because we keep ruminating on it, replaying it, and giving it time and attention and stroking it, it becomes a permanent feeling. And we're talking about within yourself, and that is not good if it's negative. All right? So make sure you key in there. Next, we have number 4, which is body. Sometimes when we're thinking, it comes with a physical response that other people may or may not notice. And this means that, sometimes when you get angry or mad or anxious, you may start shaking that leg, right? You might start fidgeting, tapping on stuff, ball up your fists, I don't think people understand that your body has to go through a lot in order to hold your emotions, right? Your emotions aren't just coming from your mental, your brain. Your entire body is working to hold an emotion of jealousy or happiness or envy or, anger, right? So there's always a physical response. Here's what I want you guys to do. I want you to start paying attention. Some of you guys may already know, like when you get upset, when you get angry, when your feelings are hurt, what is your body telling you? Key in. Most of the times when we're angry, some people say that they get hot, right? Some people get up and, they'll say that, they start to feel anxious and start pacing. I know for myself, when I'm feeling a certain way, the first thing I feel is butterflies in my stomach. Like my emotions are definitely in my gut, right? As they say, that second brain. I'm a Virgo, so y'all know. At the end of the day, I'm really in tune with my physical response, right? And anytime I start to feel a certain way and those butterflies kick in, or if I get angry, I'll cry. And once I cry, that means I am pissed off, and it's best that I just remove myself from the situation, right? Let me go take a break. Let me go utilize my coping mechanisms. Let me go deep breathe, use that positive self-talk. Let me talk myself down. Like, as you can see, I'm aware of my tools that works well for me when I'm feeling a certain kind of way. And so I pay attention to that because, like, I can get, if I get nervous, if I get anxious, I always feel it in my gut. Right? So the next time you guys get irritated, aggravated, angry, I want you to really pay attention to what is your body saying, because most of the times that physical response is usually, one of the warning signs to let you know, okay, Tamekis, you getting ready to get it, you getting ready to you getting ready to get pissed off, right? So we need to do something at this time. So it's like with anger management in the cycle, anger cycle. We have a couple of times when we have two opportunities when we can do something different instead of allowing ourselves to explode, right? Usually when we have that activating event, what will kick in is either our physical response will start, or we'll have a negative thought and then the physical response will start, right? We'll have this negative thought. Now we got the butterflies in our stomach. And the more and more we think about the activating event, the more unsettled we may feel in our body, right? And so at that moment, that is one opportunity for you to step away and do something different, right? This is definitely self-awareness, because this is you being aware of how your body, your physical body response is helping you to recognize, girl, you need to go take a break. You need to go step away. You need to go to the bathroom and go do some deep breathing, positive self-talk, put a little cold water on your face. Like, it's your warning sign, right? It's kind of like the Holy Spirit is like, girl, we need to step away for a minute. Let's go step away for a minute and have a talk, right? So I want you to really think about that. Most people, some people will go from 0 to 10 in a blink of an eye. But a lot of times we will get irritated and aggravated first, right? That's all of this is self-awareness, being really in tune with yourself, mind, body, and spirit, right? Your physical body definitely sets off the alarms, right? And, in a modality of intensive family therapy, we talk about like the firefighter. And the firefighter is the one, that part of you inside that works to put out the fires, right? And so definitely, our physical response is like one of those firefighters, right? It's telling you, okay, something is going on. Let's put this little fire out so that we can, so that we don't escalate and then things get worse, right? So I want you to really pay attention to your body response, right? The next time you feel a physical response to an emotion, take a couple of minutes, to think where in your body you may feel this negative response, right? And, you're asking yourself kind of, like, do the feelings present in your facial expressions? Or is your heart beating super fast? Has your voice escalated, or is it trembling? Are you feeling like butterflies in your stomach? Are you feeling like a heat wave just all of a sudden came over your body? Like, really, like, think about that. And I want you to, log that as well while you're logging your thoughts. I want you to log all these responses so that you can be well aware and in tune and self-aware of all of these alarms that go off that can prevent you from going too far, right? So definitely pay attention to that body response, because it's very important. I think it's one of those things that a lot of people ignore, or they just don't know, right? They don't know because they haven't paid attention to it, right? And so a good exercise for body response too is, because a lot of times we may hold tension in our shoulders because we're stressed, because we're angry, and we tend to like tense up. Right. So if you did like a body imagery exercise, I'll do an episode, body imagery episode. A body imagery, example in the episode so that you guys can, really see how powerful, body imagery is, because you can, I'm so sorry, you guys, not body imagery, but, oh my gosh, it's on the tip of my tongue. Muscle relaxation. Thank you. Muscle relaxation, right? Muscle relaxation. If you Google it, you can Google muscle relaxation technique. And the goal is for you to, what it does is it will take you through your muscles, and it will help you to assess, starting like maybe with your face and just working all the way down to your toes. And it'll help you to assess where you're holding tension. Right. And that way you can release that tension and, be able to give yourself some time to kind of reflect and figure things out so that you can respond in the best way possible. OK, so definitely pay attention to your body, honey, because your body gives you a lot of love. Right. It works to protect. It works to give you signals to do better, be better, right? It helps to regulate, right? So definitely, don't sleep on the power of the body, because God is amazing, right? God is amazing. God is amazing. That's all I can say when it comes to the body. All right. So pay attention to your physical responses, right? When you get mad, when you're sad, when you're irritated, when you're explosively, angry, when your feelings have been hurt, when you've been challenged, or when you get defensive. Like, pay attention to what your body is telling you during those times. All right. All right. And so the last element of self-awareness is your emotions. My. Okay. Like, we know how powerful these emotions are. And the thing about emotions is that emotions are the most powerful factor in how we interact with others, right? As well as how we interact with ourselves. People with higher level of emotional intelligence are able to recognize and accept their varying emotional states, while those who have a lower emotional intelligence is not aware, right? They're not aware of their emotional state and tend to end up acting out or having anger outbursts, or, just kind of acting out without thinking, right? Or thinking about the consequences of their actions, right? So emotions are really key to be in tune with, because they are really a powerful driving force for our behaviors, right? As well as for our thoughts too, right? Thoughts and emotions kind of coincide and work together. Knowing what emotional state you're in can go a long way, right, toward enhancing your personal and professional relationships, right? Just being conscious of where you are when it comes to your emotions. Like, do you wear your emotions on your sleeves? Are you afraid to be vulnerable, so therefore you hold in your emotions and let them stack until you explode, right? Do you deny emotions and just kind of like walk around numb, right? And so with all of those examples, it's clear that you're not emotionally connected with yourself, right? It's just, and that's work that you need to start working on. Sometimes we may have seen, examples of growing up negative emotions, or people, just emotions all over the place, right? And so it's important for us to think about our responses and our emotions, and how what we do with our emotions, right? Do we sit and we pay attention to them and we work to process them, or do we just let them run wild, right? And cause damage and wreak havoc, right? So definitely when you are self-aware, that you are self-aware of your emotions, you're able to process them, you're able to communicate them, you're able to be aware of how you feel, during the moment or during a situation, right? And so if you fail to recognize like these responses, you will find it difficult to process your emotions and move past them, right? But by effectively managing, your emotions, as well as all five of these domains, when it comes to self-awareness, you'll be able to control your emotions, right? You'll be able to control yourself from having like emotional outbursts, right? And work toward more of a healthier communication style. When we hold our emotions in, oftentimes it's part of us not knowing how to communicate, right? When we think about babies and the crying and, the tantrums, it's because they don't know how to communicate how they're feeling. They don't know how to communicate their emotions. But here we are, grown adults, and a lot of people don't know how to control their emotions, right? A lot of people don't know how to control their emotions because they don't know how to communicate effectively. Learn how to communicate, learn how to be in tune with your emotions, then the two will work in a healthy union, right? But if you don't know how to communicate your emotions, then you're not going to have a handle on your emotions, and you'll be wilding out. You will be out here having all of these outbursts and instability, right? And that's how people will look at you, as being unstable, right? And so being aware of your emotions in certain situations around certain people, like for myself, I don't really do well with people who are like super needy, right? People who like seek validation as if they will die if they don't get it. Like that just don't work well with me. People who forever doing the selfies, or people who are forever wanting you to validate their emotions. Like I don't do well with that. I don't. And I'm aware of that. And so when I'm around people who are needy in that way, I try my best not to be around people like that, because I know that's an irritant for me a little bit, And so I'm aware of that, right? I'm aware of how that makes me feel when I'm around someone who is, emotionally needy, right? And so granted, at certain times in life, we're all emotional needy, right? But I mean someone who is constantly emotionally needy and need that validation all the time, right? That friend that might, every time you turn around, they taking selfies, they checking to see who like their pictures, they're checking to see what people are saying in the comments, they looking for you to stroke their egos. Like, I can't. That's just too much. You wear me out, right? You just wear me out. I can't do it, right? So I am aware of that. And so when it comes to, our emotions, it's so important for us to have a handle on that, because our emotions are very powerful, very powerful. Okay. And so I just want you guys to really tune in to this episode, and please go back and listen to it as often as you can. Make sure that you focus on these five elements of self-awareness, which is self-concept, thoughts, feelings, body, and emotions, right? And when you are aware of each one of these, when you have good self-awareness of, how these 5 elements show up in your life, and you're at a place where you have good control of them, then you are winning. Like, you are in a good emotional intelligence place. You are definitely in tune and self-aware of yourself, your feelings, your emotions, and it will help you to be able to navigate life in a more healthier, happier way. Right? So I want to give you guys a couple of steps that you can use throughout this process as you go through these 5 elements. But first, I do want to give credit to this article that I found on these 5 elements, which is located. This article was written, it was posted by Jess Sexton, and that he's the author, or she's the author. I'm sorry, Jess, I don't know if this is a male or female, but I found this on this website called Training E-Track, and it was right up my alley for what I wanted to share with you guys today. And so was definitely able to pull this article out. So I definitely want to give respect to the person who put this article together. All right. Let's move on. So I gave you guys the 5 elements of self-awareness. Now let's talk about methods that you can use in order to have greater self-awareness. First, let me see how long. So this episode is rather lengthy. So I think what I want to do is I want to cut this into 2 episodes. All right. So what I want you guys to do, I want you to go back and I want you to listen to this episode. And in part 2, I am going to give you guys 9 strategies that you can use in order to develop greater self-awareness. Okay, so please just make sure that you guys go back, listen to this episode again, and I want you guys to really dive into these 5 elements of self-awareness, because like I said, in order for you guys to, live authentically and be your best self, you have to be self-aware. You have to. Like, self-awareness is the first step in self-love. It's the first step in self-growth. It's the first step in self-acceptance. Like, you got to be aware of the good, bad, and the ugly. You just have to be aware of it. And you have to be really real with yourself about you and how you move and how you show up, and how you treat people and how you treat yourself. Right? A lot of times we're too focused on other folks when we need to really be highlighting, looking at ourselves and how we move and how we mature, or if we're immature in certain areas, or if there are areas in our lives that we need to, create positive change in, so that we can have a better quality of life. That is the area that I focus on, is just having better quality of life. I'm gonna have to do an episode on that, because that's a whole nother conversation by itself, right? Is quality of life, because I really feel like a lot of people be sleeping on the importance of how of how important quality of life is. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I will be right back on in a little bit with part 2. All right. So make sure that if you got to go back and listen to this again, please do. And then make sure that you listen to part 2. Also, please follow the podcast, and, please share. You can always go on to Mission Dorothy Instagram page, and you can always leave comments about the episode underneath the post showing what the episode is going to be. about, right? So you can always go under there, leave your comments about that episode. And I greatly appreciate it if these podcast episodes are definitely helping you to get closer to your best self and become self-aware of who you are and get to a place of self-love. Please let me know, you guys, because that's what I want to hear. Like, how does this content, how is it helping your life, right? Because that's the reason why it's here. You know, I want to be able to help as many people as possible. And, my life journey is not just about me. It's about all of us, right? We're all connected in some form of fashion. So I would love to hear from you guys about, the work that I'm doing here. Okay. All right, you guys, I will see you in part 2. Have a good one.